The meat sailed through the air like a bullet made of trust. 12 jurors watched it arc across the courtroom monitor in slow motion. Over the fence, into my yard, into the jaws of fate. Mark Stevens stood frozen mid-throw, his face lit by the blue glow of evidence he never knew existed. The woman in the front row gasped. His lawyer dropped his pen. The bailiff leaned forward. But me? I just smiled. Because after 6 months of hell, after losing my best friend, after watching my daughter cry herself to sleep, his own Ring camera had just destroyed him. My name is David Martinez. I'm a cybersecurity consultant, and this is how I used my neighbor's technology against him to prove he murdered my dog. Trust can be thrown like meat, and sometimes justice catches it midair. I hate drama. At 40, I've built a life specifically to avoid it. Work from home, solve digital crises for Fortune 500 companies, share custody of 16-year-old Emma with my ex-wife Sarah. Predictable days. Coffee at 6 a.m., code until noon, client calls until evening. My house sits in Maple Grove subdivision. Cookie-cutter homes, manicured lawns, the kind of place where the biggest scandal is usually someone parking their boat in the driveway too long. Perfect for a man who spends his days fighting cyber terrorists and wants his evenings peaceful. And until 8 months ago, I had Rufus. Golden Retriever, 8 years old. 90 pounds of pure joy and absolute chaos. Emma's shadow since the divorce 3 years ago. He barked at delivery trucks, stole shoes from the mudroom, once devoured an entire Thanksgiving turkey while we were saying grace in the next room. Sarah still tells that story at family gatherings, how we came back to find Rufus on the kitchen table, turkey carcass between his paws, looking guilty but utterly satisfied. Emma laughed so hard she cried. Even I had to admit it was pretty impressive. But he was our chaos, our beautiful, ridiculous chaos. In a world of data breaches and corporate espionage, where I spend my days hunting hackers and building digital fortresses, a dog that barked at mailmen felt refreshingly normal. Real. Honest. Rufus didn't understand malware or social engineering. He understood walks, belly rubs, and the sound of Emma's school bus turning the corner at 3:47 p.m. every weekday. He'd position himself at the front window 15 minutes early, tail already wagging. That was our life. Quiet, predictable, safe. Then Mark Stevens moved in 2 houses down, mid-40s, lifted white F-150 with truck nuts dangling from the hitch. HOA board treasurer within 6 weeks of moving in. The type who measures grass with rulers and reports people for leaving trash cans out 11 minutes past pickup time. Mark looked like every middle management stereotype come to life. Polo shirts tucked into khakis, wraparound sunglasses even on cloudy days, the kind of mustache that suggests he's either a youth pastor or sells timeshares. First meeting, 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning. I was letting Rufus out for his morning business when the sound of industrial-grade pressure washing shattered the neighborhood peace. Mark was obliterating his driveway with the kind of intensity usually reserved for crime scene cleanup. Rufus, being Rufus, started barking at the squirrels that had been startled from their breakfast by the noise. Mark shut off his washer, pulled off his safety glasses, and marched to our shared fence line like he was storming Normandy. Your dog's disrupting my alpha morning routine. Alpha morning routine. The man sold insurance for State Farm. I tried being neighborly, explained that dogs bark, we're working on training, usually lasts 5 minutes max. I even apologized for the inconvenience. He stared at me like I'd just confessed to running a meth lab in my garage. 5 minutes is 5 minutes too long. Some of us are building empires over here. Empires. He sold car insurance in a strip mall next to a Subway. I should have moved that day. Instead, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. New neighborhood, wanting to make a good impression, probably just stressed from the move. We've all been there. I get it, I said. New place? Want to start off right? I'll work with Rufus on the morning barking. Mark nodded curtly, like he'd just negotiated a peace treaty. Appreciate it, neighbor. He said neighbor, the way most people say cockroach. Over the next few weeks, I watched Mark establish his territory. Professional landscaping that looked like it belonged at a golf course, security cameras at every corner, motion sensor lights that could illuminate a small airport, and always watching. Standing at his kitchen window with coffee, observing the neighborhood like a prison guard. Emma noticed it first. "Dad, why does the new guy stare at our house?" I looked over. Sure enough, Mark was at his window, phone in hand, pointed in our direction. "Probably just curious about the neighbors," I said. But something cold settled in my stomach. The complaint started reasonable enough. "Hey David, your dog barked during my important client call. Could you bring him inside during lunch? I've got a conference call with corporate." I accommodated. Anti-bark collar that made me feel guilty every time I put it on Rufus. More walks to tire him out. I even soundproofed my home office with acoustic panels so Rufus could stay inside during business hours. Not enough. Never enough. Mark began documenting everything with the dedication of a forensic accountant, standing at his window with his phone, recording Rufus like he was gathering evidence for war crimes. He created spreadsheets tracking every bark, whimper, and breath. Excel files with timestamps, decibel estimates, duration measurements. He filed HOA complaints. When those were dismissed, turns out dogs are allowed to bark occasionally in suburban neighborhoods. He appealed to the city. When the animal control officer basically laughed him out of the building, Mark escalated to the county. That's when he created the Facebook group. Quiet Community Coalition, 1 member. Kim. But Mark wasn't just complaining, he was planning. The signs appeared first, professional-looking placards around the neighborhood. "No barking, City Ordinance 247B, violation subject to $500 fine." I called the city. No such ordinance existed. "Someone's pranking you," the clerk said. "We get this occasionally, usually divorce situations. But this felt different. More methodical." 2 weeks later, Mark filed a formal noise complaint with documentation that belonged in a murder trial. Photos, audio recordings, weather reports explaining how atmospheric conditions amplified the disturbance. He'd even created a map showing the noise impact radius of Rufus's barking. The hearing officer looked at the evidence and looked at me. "Mr. Martinez, your neighbor has quite an extensive file here. My dog barks maybe 10 minutes total per day, usually at delivery trucks." "Yes, I can see that from his recordings." "This seems excessive, Mr. Stevens." Mark leaned forward. "Excessive is allowing people to terrorize their neighbors with uncontrolled animals." The officer dismissed the complaint. Mark appealed. That's when things got personal. Emma mentioned feeling watched walking home from school. Sarah noticed a white F-150 parked near the bus stop when she picked up Emma for weekend visits. My home security system started triggering motion alerts in the middle of the night. Nothing there when I checked. But the timestamps always coincided with Mark's late-night garage activities. I should have connected the dots, should have seen the pattern. But I was busy with work. A major ransomware attack had hit 3 of my clients simultaneously, and I was pulling 16-hour days trying to contain the damage. Emma was dealing with typical teenager drama. Sarah was traveling for work. Life was chaotic enough without paranoid thoughts about the neighbor. I wrote it off as coincidence, stress, imagination. Biggest mistake of my life. September 15th, Tuesday, 5:45 p.m. I was debugging ransomware for a Detroit automotive client, 3 cups of coffee deep and chasing a particularly nasty piece of malware through their network infrastructure. The kind of work that requires absolute focus. One wrong move and you can trigger the payload, destroying everything you're trying to save. Emma had texted that she was home from school. Rufus had greeted her with his usual enthusiasm. I could hear his excited barking from my office as she came through the front door. Normal. Everything was completely normal. Then Emma screamed. Not yelled, not called out, screamed. The kind of sound that bypasses your brain and goes straight to your nervous system. Pure terror. I abandoned the Detroit client mid-keystroke and ran outside barefoot, my heart hammering against my ribs. Emma stood frozen on the front porch, backpack dropped beside her, pointing at the yard with a shaking hand. Her face was ghost white, eyes wide with shock. Rufus was convulsing on the grass, foam at his mouth. Eyes wide, terrified, rolling back in his head. His legs were rigid, then thrashing, then rigid again. A sound I'd never heard before was coming from his throat. Not quite a whimper, not quite a growl. Something between panic and pain. But the worst part was his eyes. Even in his distress, even as his body betrayed him, Rufus was looking at me, staring at me like he was asking me to fix this, like he trusted me to make it stop, like he believed I could save him. Call the emergency vet. I shouted to Emma as I dropped to my knees beside Rufus. Tell them possible poisoning. I tried to hold him still, but his convulsions were getting worse. My hands came away covered in foam and saliva. His breathing was shallow, rapid, desperate. It's okay, boy. It's okay. We're going to fix this. But I could see in his eyes that he was fading. The emergency vet clinic was 12 minutes away. Emma rode with me, holding Rufus in the back seat while I broke every traffic law in the county. She kept talking to him. Stay with us, Rufus. Stay with us, buddy. Her voice shaking but steady. Dr. Sarah Kim met us at the door. 20 years of emergency veterinary experience, and she took one look at Rufus and immediately knew what we were dealing with. Possible poisoning. How long ago? Maybe 15 minutes. We found him convulsing in the yard. Blood draws, IV fluids, activated charcoal. Tests that took forever and cost more than my car payment. The waiting room had that industrial disinfectant smell that made everything feel more hopeless. Emma sat beside me, her knees drawn up to her chest, not saying anything. I kept checking my phone as if somehow the Detroit client's ransomware problem still mattered. Dr. Kim emerged 40 minutes later with the kind of expression that prepares you for bad news. It's rat poison, mixed with ground beef to mask the taste. We caught it relatively early, but he ingested a significant amount. Can you save him? We're doing everything we can. The next few hours are critical. Rufus died 6 hours later. I'll never forget the moment. He was lying on the stainless steel examination table, breathing shallow and irregular, and I was stroking his head. His fur was still soft, still warm, still Rufus. Emma held his paw. She'd been crying silently for hours, but now she was talking to him in whispers I couldn't quite hear. His tail tried to wag when he heard my voice. One last time. This weak little flutter that broke my heart completely. Good boy, Rufus. You're such a good boy, the best boy. Then he was gone. Emma didn't speak for 3 days. Just went to school, came home, sat in her room. Sarah took emergency leave from work and stayed with us. The house felt enormous and empty without the sound of Rufus's collar jingling as he followed us around. I found myself leaving his food bowl out for a week before I could bring myself to put it away. Police came within an hour of our return from the vet. Detective Sarah Chen, probably mid-30s, the kind of professional competence that made you feel like someone was finally taking this seriously. I'm sorry for your loss. I know how much pets mean to families. She took statements from both Emma and me, asked about the timeline, recent changes in routine, anyone who might have access to our yard. Any recent conflicts, neighbor disputes, anyone who might have a grudge. I mentioned Mark, the complaints, the documentation, the escalating behavior. She took notes, asked follow-up questions. We'll talk to him, standard procedure in cases like this. Cases like this? Pet poisoning is more common than you'd think, usually neighbor disputes or burglary attempts gone wrong. She called 2 days later. We talked to your neighbor, Mr. Stevens. He denies any involvement, says he was at work during the time frame when the poisoning likely occurred. Did you check his alibi? His employer confirmed he was in the office until 6 p.m. Security badge logs support his story. My heart sank. What about security cameras? His Ring doorbell covers his front entrance, not the area where the poison was found. Your cameras don't have coverage of the back corner of your property either. She was right. My security system covered entry points, front door, back door, driveway. I'd never thought to monitor the back corner where someone might toss something over the fence. Mr. Martinez, I understand your frustration. If you find any evidence, anything at all, call me immediately. I hung up and stared at my computer screen. The Detroit client's ransomware was contained, their systems were rebuilding, and I had nothing but time and rage. Evidence. Here's the thing about cybersecurity. Your brain gets wired to see what's missing, what's hidden, what's vulnerable. You spend your days thinking like an attacker, finding weak points, exploiting overlooked defenses. Mark Stevens was about to become very vulnerable. What I did next was completely legal. Unethical? Maybe. Obsessive? Definitely. But legal. I started with public information. Mark was surprisingly active online for someone who valued privacy. Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, LinkedIn, even a YouTube channel with 3 subscribers where he reviewed pressure washers. His username choices showed a distinct lack of creativity. Alpha Dad 40, Alpha Mark 1979, Mark the Man Stevens. Real subtle. 2 weeks of mapping his digital footprint revealed disturbing patterns. Mark didn't just dislike dogs, he actively hated them. Years of posts about entitled pet owners and natural solutions to the dog problem. Comments on local Facebook groups about noise ordinances, property values, and taking matters into your own hands. Still not proof. But getting warmer. The breakthrough came from analyzing neighborhood network traffic. Most suburban home networks are about as secure as screen doors. People buy smart devices, connect them to Wi-Fi, and never change the default settings. IoT devices broadcasting on open frequencies, baby monitors anyone can access, security cameras with passwords like password 123. It's a cybersecurity consultant's nightmare and a digital investigator's paradise. I wasn't hacking or breaking into anything, just observing what was already being broadcast into public airspace. Like watching TV through someone's open window or listening to unencrypted radio transmissions. At 2:47 a.m. on a Saturday, scanning the local network environment, I found it. A Ring doorbell camera, broadcasting completely unsecured on the 2.4 GHz frequency, streaming video, audio, and data without any encryption whatsoever. Guess whose house it was? I consulted with my lawyer first. Hypothetically, of course. Asked about the legality of accessing unsecured network devices that broadcast into public spaces. If someone's broadcasting unencrypted signals that can be received from public property, she said, observing those signals isn't illegal. It's like watching TV through someone's open window or listening to a radio station. What about recording what you observe? That gets more complicated, but if you're gathering evidence of a crime and you're not breaking any laws to gather it, courts tend to be sympathetic. So I watched. Ring cameras don't just broadcast live feeds, they store footage locally before uploading to the cloud. Mark's unsecured system had 347 video files stored on the device, dating back 3 months. I wrote a script to automatically download and catalog everything. Spent a week reviewing footage, looking for anything related to our property, or Rufus. File 298, recorded September 13th at 11:23 p.m., 2 days before Rufus died, showed Mark at our fence line. He was wearing dark clothes, moving carefully, constantly looking over his shoulder. In his hand was something wrapped in aluminum foil, about the size of a hamburger patty. The video quality was surprisingly good. Mark's own premium security system captured his face clearly as he approached our fence. He paused, checked left and right, then lobbed the package into my backyard. But here's the kicker. That wasn't the only video. 7 separate incidents, 3 months. Mark throwing packages into my yard. This wasn't impulse. This was conditioning. For months, Mark had been tossing treats to Rufus. My dog would run over, eat them, come back wagging his tail for more. Classic behavioral conditioning. Pavlov's dog. Mark was training Rufus to trust him. September 13th was the final treat, laced with enough rat poison to kill a horse. But the videos were just the beginning. Mark's Google Drive, same security issues, same default settings, contained folders that made my blood freeze. Martinez family intel, over 200 files. Photos of Emma walking to school, taken from various angles and distances. Screenshots of my work schedule, apparently captured by photographing my computer screen through my office window. Pictures of Sarah during visitation pickups, including license plate numbers and notes about her arrival times. Detailed maps of our daily routines. Emma's class schedule, somehow obtained from the school website. My client meeting calendar. Sarah's work address and travel itinerary, scraped from her LinkedIn profile. The most disturbing folder contained candid photos of Emma. Dozens of them. Taken from his window, from his car, from the community center where she volunteered. Close-ups that made my skin crawl, annotated with times and locations. My 16-year-old daughter had been stalked for months by a grown man with obvious psychological problems. But the folder that made me want to vomit was labeled, The Plan. Phase 1, document the problem, completed. Phase 2, establish trust with target, completed. Phase 3, eliminate the problem, completed. Phase 4, provide comfort and support to family, in progress. He wasn't done. Killing Rufus was just step 3. Mark was planning to console us, to be the supportive neighbor helping us through our tragic loss, to position himself as Emma's protector and friend during our time of grief. The final document in the folder was a draft sympathy card. Dear David and Emma, I know how much Rufus meant to your family. Losing a pet is like losing a family member. If there's anything I can do to help during this difficult time, please don't hesitate to ask. Sometimes these tragedies bring people together. Your friend and neighbor, Mark. I printed everything, made backups, encrypted copies stored in multiple locations. Then my doorbell rang. I minimized the screen showing Mark's incriminating video and walked to the front door, my hands shaking with rage. Mark Stevens stood on my porch holding a casserole dish covered with aluminum foil. He was wearing his sympathetic neighbor costume, khakis, polo shirt, concerned expression that looked practiced in a mirror. "Hey David," he said, voice dripping with fake concern. "Just wanted to check in, see how you and Emma are holding up." Behind me, my computer screen glowed with his face frozen mid-throw, the evidence that would destroy him sitting 20 feet away while he performed his sick charade. "That's thoughtful, Mark. I know how much that dog meant to you guys. Pets are family, right?" He craned his neck, trying to see into my house. "Hey, is that a new computer setup? Looks pretty advanced." My skin crawled. He was fishing, trying to determine if I'd discovered anything. The same predatory instincts that had made him such an effective stalker. "Just work stuff. Cybersecurity consulting." Cool. Must be interesting work. Digital forensics and all that." His smile widened. "Bet you could find out all sorts of things about people if you wanted to." Was he threatening me? Warning me? Or just showing off his amateur knowledge of my profession? "I mostly deal with corporate security, pretty boring stuff." "Well, if you need anything at all, I'm right down the street. Emma's such a sweet girl. This must be really hard on her." The way he said Emma's name made my stomach turn. I thought about the photos on his computer, the months of surveillance, the comfort and support phase of his plan. "I'll let you know." After he left, I sat in my driveway for 10 minutes, trying to process what had just happened. Mark Stevens had murdered my dog, stalked my daughter, and then brought me a casserole while fishing for information about my investigation. The arrogance was breathtaking. I called Detective Chen, bookmark N724. "Detective Chen, it's David Martinez. I found something." "What kind of something?" "Video evidence of my neighbor poisoning my dog." Long pause. "How did you obtain this video?" I explained the unsecured network, the legal research, the completely voluntary broadcast of incriminating evidence into public airspace. "What you did was technically legal," she said, "but defense lawyers love attacking this stuff. We need to find it the right way." She arrived 20 minutes later with a digital forensic specialist and enough paperwork to stock a law library. "We're going to need search warrants for everything. His devices, his cloud storage, his vehicle. And we need to do this exactly by the book, because this case is going to trial." They confiscated Mark's computer, phone, tablets, and security system, got proper warrants for his online accounts, built the case the right way, with chain of custody and constitutional protections intact. That's when we discovered I wasn't Mark's first victim. Forensic analysis revealed 5 years, 3 states, multiple mysterious pet deaths, a beagle named Charlie in Phoenix, 2 cats named Whiskers and Shadow in Denver, a German shepherd named King in Dallas. All dismissed as accidents, old age, or natural causes. All preceded by neighbor complaints about noise. All followed by the same pattern of consolation and support for grieving families. Mark Stevens wasn't just a psychopath. He was a serial pet killer with a documented method and a 5-year track record. The district attorney took one look at the evidence and charged him with animal cruelty, stalking, harassment, racketeering, and conspiracy. Turns out killing pets as intimidation falls under RICO statutes if you can prove a pattern of criminal enterprise. 23 felony counts. Potential sentence of 15 to 20 years. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Mark's lawyer was expensive, experienced, and desperate. He tried everything: character assassination, victim blaming, technical challenges to the digital evidence. My client is a respected insurance professional with no prior criminal record. Mr. Martinez, on the other hand, illegally accessed private computer systems and invaded my client's privacy. Objection. The defendant's computer systems were broadcasting unencrypted signals into public airspace. Sustained. I testified as both victim and expert witness. 3 days on the stand explaining the technical aspects of network security, digital forensics, and evidence collection. Mr. Martinez, the prosecutor said, "Please explain Exhibit A to the jury." The courtroom lights dimmed. The video played on a 60-inch monitor visible to everyone. Mark appeared on screen, clear as day in his own security camera footage. He paused at our fence line, looked left and right, then cocked his arm back. "There it is," I whispered to myself. The juror in seat 7 started shaking his head. The bailiff leaned forward. Even the judge blinked hard. Mark's face filled the room in high definition. His expression was focused, determined, satisfied. This wasn't impulse or anger. This was cold, calculated murder. You could hear a pin drop. "This video was recorded by the defendant's own security camera," I explained. "He documented his own crime." "Objection." Mark's lawyer shot to his feet. "Prejudicial." "Overruled. The jury will see what the defendant recorded." But we weren't done. "What you're about to see," the prosecutor continued, "shows the final moments of the Martinez family's dog." My backyard security camera footage, Rufus's last normal day. Running toward the fence, tail wagging, excited for his treat from the nice neighbor who'd been training him for months. The audio was crystal clear. Happy bark, then confusion, then distress. Emma, sitting in the gallery with Sarah, started crying silently. I wanted to comfort her, but I was still on the witness stand. "Mr. Martinez, what did the defendant do after your dog died?" "He brought a casserole, offered to help us get through this difficult time, even suggested where we might get a new dog." "A new dog?" "A breeder in the next county who specialized in quiet dogs. According to business records, Mark would have received a $500 referral fee for each dog placed." The jury looked physically ill. "Objection. Relevance?" "Your Honor, this shows the defendant planned to profit from the family's grief while positioning himself for continued access to the victims." Overruled. That's when Mark Stevens finally broke. "I didn't mean for it to suffer." His outburst came from nowhere. His lawyer lunged for his arm, trying to silence him. "I just wanted it to go away. I calculated the dose. It was supposed to be quick and painless." "Mr. Stevens, you have the right to remain silent." "I don't want to remain silent anymore. You people don't understand what it was like. That dog ruined everything. My property values, my peace of mind, my entire alpha lifestyle." Even during his breakdown, he couldn't help himself. Alpha lifestyle. The man was unhinged. "Your Honor, I moved to strike." "Too late, counselor." The jury heard what they heard. Jury deliberated 47 minutes, barely enough time for lunch. Guilty on all counts. 3 years state prison, 5 years probation. Lifetime ban on pet ownership. $50,000 in damages to Emma and me. Additional charges in Phoenix, Denver, and Dallas followed as other families came forward. Mark will be in prison for a very long time. 6 months later, Emma and I sat in my redesigned office. I'd upgraded my security system, improved my network monitoring, and started teaching Emma basic cybersecurity skills. How to spot fake profiles, secure her accounts, recognize when someone's watching. "Dad," she said, looking at my computer screen displaying network traffic patterns, "I've been thinking about what you taught me, about digital footprints." "Yeah?" "Mark left footprints everywhere, didn't he?" "He thought he was smart, but he was just sloppy." I nodded. The worst criminals usually are. They get overconfident, make mistakes, document their own crimes. "I want to help other people," she said. "Kids whose pets get hurt. Families who don't know how to fight back." She started volunteering at the animal shelter. I became something of a local celebrity at school. Having a dad who caught a serial pet killer makes you pretty popular with the true crime crowd. Last month, she looked at me over breakfast and said, "Dad, I think I'm ready." "Ready for what?" "To love another dog." We adopted Mabel 3 weeks later. Golden Retriever mix, 8 months old, from the same shelter where Emma volunteers. She has Rufus's energy but her own personality, more cautious, more observant, like she understands the world can be dangerous. I've changed careers since the trial. Still do cybersecurity consulting, but now I also work with law enforcement. Help them understand digital evidence, navigate privacy laws, build cases that hold up in court. Some reporters call me the digital detective. It's cheesy, but Emma likes it, and that's what matters. I think about Rufus every day. His tail wagging when he saw Mark at the fence. His trust, his joy, his complete inability to understand that someone would want to hurt him. Dogs don't comprehend evil. They just love and trust and hope for the best in everyone. Maybe that's why losing one hurts so much. They represent everything good about the world: loyalty, forgiveness, unconditional love. When someone destroys that innocence, they're not just killing a pet, they're attacking the idea that goodness exists. Here's what I want you to remember. Technology is a tool. Use it to protect, not harm. Justice takes patience, persistence, and sometimes a little technical expertise. And evil often defeats itself. Mark thought he was untouchable, but his arrogance became his downfall. He recorded his own crime, documented his own stalking, left digital breadcrumbs that led straight to a prison cell. The same technology he used to spy on us became the weapon that destroyed him. If you're dealing with a difficult neighbor, document everything. If you suspect abuse, report it. If someone's stalking you or your family, take it seriously. And if you're a pet owner, love them while you can. Protect them. They depend on us completely. Sometimes, if you're persistent, if you're willing to fight, if you know where to look, sometimes the bad guys get caught. Sometimes justice wins. Sometimes the good boys get the last bark. Rest in peace, Rufus. You were the best dog in the world. And Mark Stevens, if you're watching from your cell, which you probably are, because narcissists can't help themselves, remember this: trust can be thrown like meat, and sometimes justice catches it midair. Thanks for reading. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. In the digital age, the truth always finds a way to surface. You just have to know where to look.